So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the role that the Sovereign class starship held during the Dominion War. Now, I want to be real specific. There was not a fleet of Sovereign class starships. There were only a few of these starships that existed during the Dominion War, but nonetheless, they still had an important role, but they were never in the front lines. And we're going to kind of discuss what their role was, why they were doing what they were doing, and what their fleet looked like. Now, I will point out that the fleet will change periodically through the video depending on the enemies that they're defending against. Because remember, the Sovereign class is a defensive weapon used during the Dominion War, not an offensive weapon. Keep that in mind. Alright, so the Sovereign class starship had its own fleet and would have an escort fleet, and we're going to talk about that. Now, the Sovereign fleet did not enter the front lines, and one of the main reasons for that is the Federation couldn't afford to lose such a pristine starship in combat. The Sovereign was the most advanced starship Starfleet had created at this point, and it was a 5th generation starship. But unlike a lot of Federation starships that were preparing for mass engagements with the Borg, everything about this ship is state-of-the-art. A lot of our anti-Borg fleet are a mixture of Type 4 and Type 3 technology. They're all good starships, but the Sovereign is something totally different. It's an absolute masterpiece. Alright, so the Sovereign class has Type 5 technology in all categories: engines, shielding, weapons, ECM. One of the really important things about this ship is it could jam other ships, it could distort them, it could see them coming from afar. This ship could do all. Now, a lot of Federation starships are probably using sensor technology of level 3, and some of our bigger ships is level 4, to give you an idea. So let's just kind of remember that, and let's kind of look at the sensor capabilities of a ship like the Sovereign class. All right, so it has Generation 5, which is 22 light years. Most starships in the Dominion War are a Generation 3, and it's 15 light years. Now, it doesn't really seem like a huge leap in technology, honestly, going from 3 to 5, and you're only getting, a few point difference. But every light year is a light year. So, I mean, it can see further. Its ECM technology, though, is really more where it's going to shine more than its actual long-range scanning abilities. They're better than anything else out there, so you're going to see the fleet coming, be able to react to it more efficiently, what's really important. But those ECM technology, when the engagement does happen, because it has Type 5 technology and most ships are using 3, and if they're lucky, a Type 4 ECM, there's a lot of computer jamming going on and targeting jamming that is happening, which is ECCM, which means that this ship can actually cause a large portion of the enemy fleet to not be able to hit accurately. And that's really important in large engagements. Now, if the home system is attacked, wherever the Sovereign is, the way the fleet dynamics are going to work is there are going to be escorts of 2 attack wings, and those attack wings are going to consist of several Sabre classes. It's going to have probably a steam runner, followed by 2 Norway classes, and then a New Orleans class. And then there will be a support ship, which will probably consist of a Galaxy class, an Ambassador, or the best case scenario, a Nebula class. And then there will be at least 1 starship that will be there for defense alone, will be a sister ship, and it'll probably consist of an older cruiser. Now, the reason why it's going to be consisting of an older cruiser is the front line attack wings are the primary defense. If that gets bypassed, then the support ship and the defending ship, the sister ship, is going to be expected to defend the Sovereign class. Now, with that being said, let's just kind of look at the front line support and why we consist of the starships that we picked. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to have a couple of wings in that attack fleet that's defending the Sovereign class, which is going to consist of Sabre class starships. The reason why we're using Sabre class starships is they're a direct counter to Dominion bug ships. Steamrunner class starships are a powerful front-land ship, which is going to be good with taking on other ships that are heavily armed, like the Galor class. So the Steamrunner will be a counter to the Galors. Alright, and now the Norway class starships are going to be used for basically sniping large capital ships like Dominion cruisers, which have a tendency to stay in the back lines and are hard to get to. So the Norway is going to use its siege phaser in order to get that long range support. Alright, and the New Orleans class is basically a mini Galaxy class. It has really good communications. It also has the ability to have 3 modules who can give additional support when it comes to ECM, long range torpedo support, or disrupting communications. So that will be probably the mini command ship of the small fleet, is the New Orleans class. Now, of those starships, the New Orleans class is the oldest ship and is the one that's probably going to do the least amount of fighting. Not that it can't fight, it does. It was upgraded with Type 10 phasers. It does have good shielding, but its hull strength is relatively low compared to the other starships. But the Starfleet did produce a lot of them in preparation for a Borg invasion. So the Sovereign Attack Fleet is going to consist of the New Orleans as the command ship, the Norway is going to be the sniping group, the Sabres are going to act as the main defense, and then the Steamrunner is to give a little more punch to that defense wing. So this is the front line of the Sovereign Defense Fleet. So ships that have ECM, which is computer countermeasures, really good computer countermeasures, would be the Nebula class, then the Intrepid class, followed by the Centaur class. These are ships that are dedicated support roles, also somewhat of spy ships. They're really good for that support role. They're not really there to engage enemy ships. That's what the frontline starships are for. They're there for just jamming the enemy's communications. Now, the question most people are having is, why do you have something like the Challenger here when the Challenger is a subpar starship? The reason why ships like the Challenger are being used as that secondary support ship is it's just going to be defending the Sovereign class. It's not the Sovereign class. The best outcome is not to have the Sovereign have to engage enemy forces unless it's necessary, because it's a prime target to be taken out. If ships do bypass its offensive fleet, there at least be something there to support it. The reason why that ship is there is the ships that are going to be using defensive role are most likely not going to be in combat, and so we can sacrifice better ships for the front line and put more subpar ships as reserve. Now, if we were doing an anti-Cardassian fleet, we're going to focus on ECM, and we're going to focus on heavier ships that can take on the Galors and go toe-to-toe with them, which would be stuff like the Steamrunner. Now, that ECM technology, if we don't want to use up our more valuable starships, their nebulas, we can use Intrepids, and we can also use Centaurs. The reason why this fleet is an anti-Cardassian fleet is Cardassians do not have really good locking on technology, so ECM and ECCM would be more of an advantage in this scenario. So we want to have ships that are better at jamming and disrupting locking sensors and targeting systems, and that's what this fleet would be consisting of. So the main thing to take about the Sovereign fleets is they are very versatile. They're going to be changing periodically throughout the war, depending on the ships and resources that are left. Remember that the Sovereigns are going to be in the home territories. They're going to be defending, and they're not going to be in deep space combat. So one of the most important things about the Sovereign class, besides the fact the ship is incredibly advanced and expensive, is that it has the best crew aboard. So Starfleet's best officers, best crew, best scientists, best engineers are aboard the Sovereign class starships. If you lose a Sovereign class starship, the morale lost to the Federation, as well as the advanced personnel lost, is not replaceable. So my opinion why this ship is not entering the front lines is because it is a large capital cruiser battleship killer. Its phaser array system fires the same as a standard Galaxy class, 14 times. but its output is 125,000 versus 65,000. So that's a huge discrepancy in power, but it's the same amount of shots. So this ship is designed to kill very large targets quickly and efficiently. It's not designed to kill weak, small ships efficiently. And I say that because you got to think about it. Let's say it fires its 14 blasts. So much of that energy is being wasted on small, useless ships like the Jem'Hadar fighter. And when I say useless, I just mean that they can't take a punch. And so, yeah, so this ship could wipe some of them out pretty efficiently, just like the Galaxy class would, but a lot of that energy is being wasted on those massive numbers. So this ship doesn't really, its phaser systems are very powerful, but they're somewhat limited because of that large output. It kind of reminds me of Deep Space Nine phaser array systems. So the Deep Space Nine phaser array system are Type 11. They're like 650,000 terawatts of damage per shot. Really, really, really powerful. But they really only shoot 1 or 2 shots before they have to charge up. So they're not really very effective at killing, let's say, like, I don't know, Jem'Hadar bug ships or birds of prey, because a lot of that energy is being wasted. Because, a Jem'Hadar bug ship, yeah, I could blow them up in one shot, but it would be better used taking on and wiping cruisers out. It's kind of like the shotgun of the Star Trek universe. Now, the Sovereign class torpedo technology is the exact opposite. It's fantastic at killing Jem'Hadar ships, Borg ships, whatever. It's just great at everything. It has quantum torpedoes to hit the really big targets. It's got advanced launchers. It can launch 12 instead of 10, which is even better than the Galaxy class. So there's really no limitation on the weaponry when it comes to the torpedo technology. It's just straight up state of the art. Now, we need to take consideration what the Sovereign class was created for. And it wasn't created to take on the Dominion, obviously. They didn't even know the Dominion existed when the ship was created. It was designed to engage, defend, and destroy the Borg. So its weaponry is designed to take on massive starships. Yes, it can kill small starships, but it's just not really made for that. It's not its job. It's not its role. It's there as a tank. And it's a fantastic Federation tank nonetheless. So the ship not being in the front lines, it does make sense. It would be a prime target for the crew, not to mention its main weapons, which would be its phaser systems, are not really particularly that great for mass numbers. They're more designed to take on large capital class starships. So if the ship is in control of the fleet, it would be really good as a defensive deterrent, because once you bypass its fleet, you get past it, and then you're engaging the Sovereign. The Sovereign operates almost as if it's its own small fleet. It's incredibly powerful shielding, very powerful armor. It's got a blade of armor, just like the Defiant. May not be as thick, but it can definitely take a punch, and it can do serious damage. So it doesn't really need the support craft that's added to my fleet. It's just there because those ships are kind of subpar, and there's no reason that your command ship's not going to have something backing it up. Once you get past the main fleet, there's always a sub-fleet defending your main target. Not to mention, if you're a Cardassian or a Bree and you're entering Federation territory, you know that the Sovereigns are there waiting for you, and you know you're going to have something big to take that sucker down. So it's more of an intimidation tactic not to send it to the front lines too, is because you know that you have to give something really big and really valuable to punch through that line. Now, at the weakest that I think the Sovereign fleet would ever come to would be right at the very end of the Dominion War, where the Starfleet is basically starved for starships. Both sides have basically depleted most of their forces. And as far as the defensive part goes, the Federation would have had to ascend most of its ships that were defending its home stations or on the front lines. At this point, I think the Sovereign fleet would probably consist of ambassadors, Nigeras, maybe Cheyennes, and the frontline forces where our, anti-Borg fleet would have probably been replaced by repurposed Excelsior class starships. So my point is about the Sovereign class is it's very powerful. It's a game changer. you can have less and more by putting it as a defensive structure. Now let's just kind of take a minute and let's look at the Sovereign itself. So it's 685 meters. Its mass is 3,204,000. Its crew is 855. Has a max of 9,800,000. It's got 12 Type 12 phaser arrays. Has 3 torpedo launchers, and it has 2 quantum torpedo launchers. Has an attack value of 9,206,000. Its shields are 2,275,000. Its hull value is 4,036,500, which gives it a full defense of 6,311,500. This ship is about twice the power of a Galaxy-class starship. Now, I do want to note that there are different variants of the Sovereign. This is the original Sovereign that we see. We do know later in the movies, after the Dominion War, the Sovereign gets upgraded. That Sovereign is not seen during the Dominion War. This is the Sovereign that we've seen during the Dominion War. This is what would have been defending key stations for the Federation. Absolutely powerful starship. Very fast, very efficient, very powerful. It can do anything and everything. If this ship was produced in large numbers, it would be a very valuable frontline starship, but because of its advanced technology, the way it was built, what it was built for, it takes years to build. It's not particularly a great ship for the Dominion War. It's a really good defensive starship. If you are worried about Jem'Hadar dreadnoughts, this is what you're sending against a dreadnought. This is what you're going to send against the Romulan Warbird. This is what you're sending against the Borg Cube. It's not really designed and not super efficient when it comes to destroying destroyers. It's a good cruiser killer, and it's a good battleship killer, and it's a good killer of dreadnoughts. It's just not good with raiders and destroyers. So this is my viewpoint of the Sovereign class and how it should be used. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Is there something about the Sovereign class I missed? Is there any information that you would like to know that you think I should know? Put it in the comments. And with that being said, engage. Thank you for watching Trek Wars. If you like this material, please subscribe and make a comment. And with that being said, victory is life.